Episode 16 begins at the Avalon residence. There's Sakura in her upstairs room wearing a kimono. Now, she was asking Kiro what he thought of it. "You look great," Kiro said. He's not kidding. "Thanks a lot," Sakura said. But when Kiro insulted her, that made Sakura upset. And she says, "That settles it. I'm not giving you any of the New Year's Eve dishes from my father," meaning Aiden case in point. And Kara says, "Whoa, wait a minute. I didn't mean by that insult. What I meant to say, you look absolutely great in that outfit." And Sakura says, "Really? Do you mean that?" "I absolutely do," Kiro said. And Sakura says, "Okay, I forgive you. But just this once, I promise you to bring back some food later on." "Thanks, Sakura," Kiro said. Meanwhile, in the living room, we have Tori sitting on the couch, looking out the window. And that's when his sister Sakura shows up. So after she came downstairs, she looked at her brother to ask what he thought about that outfit she's wearing. "You look great," Tori said. So, long story short, both Sakura and Tori's father Aiden shows up to wish them both a happy new year. And they said the exact same back to their father, they being Tori and Sakura. So, Aiden goes first to compliment to Sakura to say how nice she looks. "Thanks very much," Sakura said. Then Aiden says, "Oh, by the way, here's the cards from New Year's, so you can pass them around." "Thanks a lot," Sakura said. So Aiden made a suggestion. He says, "Let me finish my work right quick and then we'll meet back and then we'll all go to the shrine," he suggested. And so he heads off. So long story short, Sakura sits down on the couch next to her brother to look at the cards she just got. One from her best friend Madison, one from Lee. Then, long story short, Sakura's brother Tori just asked a question as a snide remark. "You mean that bratty kid?" Then Sakura has her turn to plead her case to say Lee is not exactly a bratty type, but whenever she needs him, he's always there. And of course, she also pleads her case with her brother that if only he had the time to get to know him a little better. At first, Tori was going to say something to Sakura, and when Sakura was asking him to repeat it, but he says, "Never mind. Let's just go." So when Aiden comes back, he lets Tori and Sakura know that it's time to leave. So they left the residence. So, back with the Avalons, we have Tori, Sakura, and Aiden, their father. Well, to be curious, Sakura and Tori's father Aiden was wondering what is Sakura wishing for this year. Well, for three things, Sakura says, that she wouldn't drop the baton on her head so much, and that Madison will win the choir competition that's coming up. And the third wish, well, Sakura can have a new math teacher for the next semester. Now that's something. So finally, the good news is that the Avalons have made it to the shrine. But there's bad news. Tori sensed that his best friend Julian isn't there. Now, Aiden, who is Sakura and Tori's father, finds this very weird. He says this is not like Julian to not show up unless there's a reason for it. So, luckily for Tori, he made a suggestion to both his father and his sister. He says, "Why don't you two go on ahead? I'll go to Julian's house to see what's going on." So, both Aiden and Sakura agreed, and so Tori heads out to Julian's house. Now, Sakura finds this really, really weird since she's now alone with her father. She's been wondering what's going on with Julian, why he is tired all the time, and of course, in her brother's case, he's been late to school lately. So back with the Avalons, Aiden and Sakura, they just met up with the Taylors, Madison and Samantha. Anyway, long story short, both Sakura and Madison were talking to each other on the bridge at the shrine. Though being curious, Sakura wanted to know from her best friend Madison what does she wish for. Well, in Madison's case, she just told Sakura that she and Sakura would be friends forever. Now that's something to think about. So, long story short, Samantha, who's Madison's mother, luckily for her, she brought a camera. She told Madison and Sakura that she can take their picture, and so she did. So, long story short, after the picture was taken of Madison and Sakura and compliment from Samantha to say how beautiful they are, that's when Sakura says, "Boy, I'm really nervous back there." "Don't worry about it," Madison says. "I'm sure the pictures will turn out fine." And of course, she's not kidding when she said that. So when Samantha approaches Sakura, she says, "You can visit our house if you like." And Sakura says, "Thanks to Samantha." So Aiden says, "Well, I might as well head off because he has some dinners to make." Sakura suggested that she should help out her father, but her father already pleaded his case to say that she and her brother had made him the other day previously. So Aiden made a suggestion to Sakura to stay with her best friend a little longer, and Sakura agrees. So before Samantha and Aiden can head off for the rest of the day, that's when Samantha told Madison and of course her best friend Sakura not to stay out so long, and the girls agreed. So after Aiden and Samantha head off, that's when Sakura made a suggestion with her best friend if they would get their fortunes told, and Madison agrees, and so that's what the two of them did. So back with Madison and Sakura, they had arrived at the fortune booth. And so Sakura was asking someone if they would like to have their fortunes told. But neither Sakura nor Madison realized that there was someone else that was working there, and that someone was Eli. Now that's a shocking surprise. Well, Eli just confessed to Sakura and Madison that the reason why he's there is because the volunteers need him to help out, so that's what happened. Long story short, Eli had finally allowed the girls to get their fortunes, so Sakura went first. So long story short, Sakura got fortune number 75, and as for her best friend, she got fortune number 42. So Eli went ahead and get Madison's fortune first, which is number 42. Remember Sakura's fortune number 75? Well, Eli, for some reason, without the girls looking, is putting a spell on it. So back with Eli, when he came back, he gave the girls their fortunes. So Madison went ahead and read hers first, which is number 42. Now Madison's is very good. It says, "May all your dreams come true." Well, Madison's fortune wasn't kidding. Then Sakura went next to read her fortune, which is number 75. Now hers is extremely weird. It said, quote, "The truth can be found in the first dream of the year." That is weird. Now Madison, being curious, went ahead and looked at Sakura's fortune and said how weird it was. No kidding. So Eli wanted to know if there was something wrong, if there was a problem. Well, Sakura just told Eli no, but there's a good luck fortune that's missing from there. "Oh, I had to confess," Eli said, "that fortune you just got is very special." "Did you say special?" Sakura asked. Well, Eli doesn't say a word, but he nods in agreement. Back with Sakura and Madison, who had just left the fortune booth, Sakura, now confused, is left to wonder what did her fortune mean when it said that. Back with Eli in the fortune booth, he says, "Don't worry, Sakura. I'm sure your fortune will be very, very special. You'll figure it out what it means." Later, back with Sakura's older brother Tori, he had just arrived at Julian's house. But by the time the Tori makes it inside, he finds his best friend collapsed to the floor, sleeping. So Tori rushed over to see if his best friend Julian's okay. So he tries to wake him up. Long story short, when Julian woke up, he looked at Tori to say hello to him. So Tori says, "What happened?" "Well," Julian says, "I've been tired lately, but I think I'm okay now," he said. And now Tori wanted to know why hasn't his best friend had arrived at the shrine that day like he was planned to or supposed to. So Julian apologized for not being there and Tori forgives him. So Tori says, "Don't worry, if we hurry we can get there in time," he suggested. Then Julian starts to collapse in his sleep. And then Tori was horrified because what he saw next was unbelievable. Julian's hand vanishing right in front of Tori. So Tori couldn't help but wonder what was going on here. Meanwhile, at Lee's apartment in the kitchen, we have Lee and Wing Wei. And that's when they heard a doorbell. It's Madison and Sakura. So what Sakura and Madison did was to wish them both Lee and Wing Wei a Happy New Year's. And they said the exact same back to Madison and Sakura. And so what Wing Wei did is that he invited both Madison and Sakura inside. So that's what happened. But before both Sakura and Madison can go inside, what Sakura wanted to know from Lee and Wing Wei, are they interrupting anything? Of course not, Wing Wei said. We wouldn't think of a thing. Isn't that right, Lee? And of course, Lee happens to agree with Wing. So Lee went ahead and invited the girls inside, the girls being Madison and Sakura. So what Madison and Sakura did is that they went to have tea with both Lee and Wing Wei. So while having treats and tea, Madison was very curious and then asked Wing Wei if he made them. And he said no, then that Lee actually made the treats. Oh, I forgot to mention that Sakura and Madison had just left the shrine moments ago earlier. I thought I should mention it. So after leaving Lee's apartment later that night at the Avalon residence, so upstairs in Sakura's bedroom, Kira was enjoying treats. According to Sakura, as she was changing into her green pajamas, she couldn't help but wonder why Julian didn't show up at the shrine that day earlier and what was wrong with him. She hopes that he's going to get better and real soon. Because, as Sakura says in her case, she had no idea what's been going on with Julian lately, but since he's visiting the next day, she hopes he gets well by then. Then Kirill started having a thought, and he's getting really worried and concerned about both Yue and Julian. And he knows that if something isn't done soon and quick, then both of them will disappear for sure. So after Kirill had a thought and is getting worried, that's when he told Sakura that it's nice to have Julian to be coming the very next day, and he too is hoping that he'd be better by then. So Sakura sits on her bed, and before she heads off to sleep, she looks at her fortune one more time, and she couldn't help but what's going on in her head. Kiro looks at it too, and he's not kidding when he said that that fortune is really, really weird. And of course, Sakura happens to agree with him, and of course, she had no idea what it means, at least not yet. So Kiro had a hunch. Why don't we see what your first dream means? He suggested, and Sakura agrees. So Kira went ahead and turned off the lights while Sakura went in bed, although it is confirmed that Sakura's fortune is now on the headboard next to the alarm clock. So both Kira and Sakura went to sleep. But what they didn't know is that Sakura is about to have a strange dream, the one that she'll never forget. So long story short, the time on Sakura's alarm clock is after 3 o'clock in the morning, just after midnight. Remember Sakura's fortune that she had at the shrine earlier? Well, it started to glow on top of the headboard right next to the alarm clock. And if that's not weird enough, what happened next is unbelievable. For some unknown reason, the star card book inside of her desk drawer started to glow too, and so is the dream card, which hasn't been transformed yet. Now, when I mentioned earlier that Sakura was going to have a strange dream, I wasn't kidding. And it started when Sakura did something she's never done before. First of all, to transform her star key into a star staff. That's the first part of the dream. The next thing she did was something else she's never done before, transform the dream card into a star card. So that makes it 31 on the list. So using the Dream Star card, what Sakura dreamt was unbelievable. The first thing she did is that she started flying from her house. Then she went everywhere from uptown, downtown, her school, Cherry Tree Street, and up to the exact same shrine where she and her best friend had left from earlier that afternoon. Then at the shrine, what Sakura's dream did next was unbelievable. There's some kind of a strange power that's going on there. A strange power that no one has ever witnessed. It was a power of darkness. The first thing it did was to cover the sun and then the moon. That causes both the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse all at once. Then what happened next in Sakura's dream were the three creatures that were standing on top of the shrine. Then one of the creatures in Sakura's dream just made a confession. It said, "I'm the one who caused these disturbances the whole time. You're getting powerful than you know. And I can assure you that this will all work out in the end." Before Sakura woke up, she knows who that first figure is, but before she could reveal it, she woke up back in a present in her upstairs room at the Avalon residence. So Kiro, after she woke up, wanted to know from her, "What's going on? Did you have a nightmare or something?" "No, it's not a nightmare," Sakura said, "but what she dreamt about was unbelievable." Then Sakura wanted to know from Kiro, "Shouldn't you be worried? I just want to make sure you don't have a nightmare." But then he tripped on something underneath the covers. It's the star staff that Sakura transformed in her dream. Now, the weird thing about it is it's the first time she ever done it in her sleep. But, according to Kiro, he told her, "Here's something else that's weird." While in her sleep, Sakura did something else. She transformed a dream card into a star card for the first time, too. Now that is weird. So after Sakura agrees with Kiro's hunch that she had transformed a dream card into a star card for the first time, and her star staff as well, she started to explain to Kiro what that dream was all about and what was going on. So flashback in Sakura's dream, as Sakura explains in the present scene that she saw the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse, the power of darkness, and of course, if that's not weird enough, what she saw next were the three figures that were on top of the shrine. And according to her, that she knows one of those figures in her dream that told her the whole confession. So back in the present, in Sakura's upstairs room in the Avalon residence, that's when Kiro told her that it all makes sense. The reason? He says that it's just no ordinary dream that she's ever witnessed. It's a premonition of what's going to happen next. But that's not all, Kiro says. Whatever's going on is the reason why all those strange disturbances have been happening lately. So Kiro, although curious, wanted to know from Sakura if what she said about her dream is true and if she left out anything. First of all, yes, she's sure. And no, she didn't leave anything out at all. She remembered every detail of the dream that she had. So Kiro says, "Don't worry, I'm sure it'll work out. You'll see." Now Sakura, who agrees with him, and says, "Yes, I guess you're right. It'll all work out. I'm sure of it." So Carol says, "Oh, let's not forget. I'll be right here at your side, no matter what," he said. So even though Sakura agrees with him, but she couldn't help but wonder what if she does meet up with those figures in her dream. And if she does, what else is going to happen? Well, Kira says, "All I can tell you that it is a possibility." So who are those three figures? And what would happen if Sakura does meet with them? So with 31 star cards so far, who knows what's going to happen next? So that ends episode 16.